Hello. Today I'm going to be
Hey,
interviewing Supra. Um, Big fan of you, TF2 admin, major community contributor. As you can see here, we got the cameras today. I am very camera shy, but go and introduce yourself for a little bit.
so hey, I'm Supra. I'm from Poland and I'm doing stuff for TF2. I was league admin for ETF2L for I think it was like 2.5 years. Right now I'm dealing with webmaster work, so basically taking care of the website, whether if it works, if something bad happens, then I just make sure it goes back to working to be operational. I also take care of tf2pickup.org project, so I do some management here and provides help in making the site operational for many countries. I think we have like 16 websites working right now. And I also organize an event called Poland.tf. It's a TF2 LAN for people living in Poland and close by. We organize it every year. So yeah, thanks for having me here.
Of course, glad to have you on. It's always really interesting to just delve into these sorts of smaller scale niche topics that people from other communities might not necessarily see from an outside lens. Always very important to also just allow casual players to see some of it as well. It really has a profound impact on the scene to just have more things be out publicly in the open. So without further ado, I'll go and start it off. So, what brought you to Team Fortress 2 initially? How did you get into the game on a casual level?
Honestly, it's so dumb because the reason why I started playing TF2 was because I was playing CS 1.6 at the time, and my PC was besotting sometimes when I was playing randomly. So I saw that there's such game on Steam, and I thought like, oh, it looks kind of interesting. I also played Day of Defeat, but it didn't catch me. So I just started playing it only because it worked without any problems, like any blue screens or whatever. And well, slowly I just found it out that it's interesting for me. I like it. The theme. I like the fact that it's just made in a funny thing when you don't treat it seriously because it looks like a cartoon game. And the mechanics were something which was kind of interesting for me. I like this distinction of classes. I remember that I've started playing heavy because at the time when I started playing, so it was like over 10 years ago, it was a pretty strong class. The funny part was that you can just throw sandwiches for yourself, so you could just heal yourself just by throwing it. And you could also have a pocket medic which do pretty much the entire job for you. So it was like you could just go on a pub with one medic and just destroy everybody. And it was just funny for me to do that. That's how I made my first friend, and now it just ended up being here.
I see. Well, I have a very tough question for you. This is really going to stress your moral compass. But in revelation of recent world events, do you think the heavy from Team Fortress 2 should be banned from competitive from casual play?
Completely not.
Oh yeah.
Especially because it's been nerfed with heavy gun ramp up. Well, no, I don't think so. Like, there's no point, and I think this class is balanced. Even if you can do a lot if you have a pocket medic on casual. It's
I see.
still pretty easy to counter if there's like someone with a brain on the second side.
I see.
There's like so many ways to counter it. So I don't think so.
Hmm. I don't know. He is kind of bald though. Like, do you think he supports Putin? Is that a valid reason to boycott the heavy? That's the reason. That's why I'm asking. That's why I bring up world events. I gotta
Okay.
ask the tough questions here.
Oh, okay. If that's the question, then maybe actually that should be considered.
I see. Do you think this is a very divisive issue in the European Team Fortress 2 community? Has it
No,
gotten the discussion it needs?
well, I think it should be like brought up, on global forum for the Team Fortress 2 in Europe, but somebody like didn't catch up this yet. that there might be some similarities between the class and the person you were talking about.
I see, I see. I'll note this down. Very important information. Thank you for the insight.
Yeah, but it's always an option that someone can just go on TV forum and just make up a Rach thread.
Yeah, maybe the Onion will pick up on it. Or maybe we can make it into how 4chan did their old their old kind of trolling where they would get these random things kind of talked about in articles by legitimate news companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can do some of that, get TFTV in on the fun. We'll really bring attention to TF2, we'll save the community. This is the new save TF2, trust me, trust me.
Well, I think completely opposite is gonna be kill TF2.
Kill TF2. Have you the button?
But I'm just already tired of people who just say that this game is so dead because people just still play on it, and I don't think it's dead at all because there's a lot of development being on right now.
Fair. So you're from Poland, correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any opinion? What has it been like, kind of living over in Eastern Europe? Out in a country that isn't Ukraine or Russia. Has it been a particularly difficult time for you? Has it affected you? Do you have any sort of just thoughts or sentiments on what's going on in Eastern Europe at the moment?
From practical point of view, since we're a neighbor with Ukraine, after the war, we just got way more people from Ukraine. It's not only a thing which was happening, when this phase of war have started in the last year, but it was thing which happened for years already, and it's because of the economical things. When Ukrainians came to Poland, they had a chance to earn 4 times more money. Sorry. And this is pretty much the same reason why Polish people went to other countries like Netherlands, like UK, like America, because you can just earn more money here. That's pretty simple. But the entire situation after 2014 with Crimea, with separatist fights on the east of Ukraine made more people come from Ukraine to Poland and other countries, but especially Poland because culturally we are kind of alike with Ukrainians, in my opinion. Even if we don't speak a Cyrillic language, it's still Slavic language, and we kind of get each other at some point. And after this stage of war, from the last year, a lot of people came to Poland. It was like 2.5 million people. So I can see people running cars with Ukrainian plates everywhere, and I don't feel bad about it. They need some home, and I don't feel. I think what we do here is a good job because we just provide them help for living, for stay away from war. There's even a car with Ukrainian plates next to my flat, and it's pretty common here to see Ukrainians doing some work here. Well, I'm just okay with them. But in terms of living, well, I think living in Europe is the best thing to do. I mean, if you're living in any country in Europe except Ukraine right now, I think you are in a good position. Better position than most countries in the world. Because I would say the quality of living is quite high compared to other countries. If you just look at the economical things, for example, if you want to sell food to Europe, you have to meet requirements. There's a list of requirements you have to meet for certain type of food. So the quality of the food is quite high here. So it's pretty uncommon for people to get intoxicated by food. And for comparison, I can tell you that there's a Czech player called Krun who came to South America just for tripping for a longer time. I think he's here for 7 months or 8. And he told me that he got food intoxicated 3 times already in a year. Well, I think in my entire life, I just get food intoxicated maybe twice. So this is something I think people living here underestimate it because it's like a given thing. So the people just don't notice it. And well, I appreciate that the fact that I'm living here. Maybe the pay we have in Poland isn't great, but I think it's a safe country. Except this, situation on the west.
What's the situation on the west?
On the west of Poland there's Ukraine, and there's a war here. That's the thing.
Nice. That would make sense.
We just have not the safest neighbors like Russia, like Belarus. That makes it a little bit spicier, I would say.
That is fair. Not something I've had too much experience with in North America, gotta say.
Yeah, I can imagine, but I think Americans have like different problems in their lives.
Yeah, like our food being super full of sugar and giving us illnesses. Yep.
Yeah, there's like I just know that Americans just deal with completely different problems like we do, and I was even thinking of starting work in America, but something which pushes me away is when you look at how the workload is in America compared to EU, it's like heaven here. Because myself, I have like 27 days, paid day offs I can take in 1 year. And it's a norm here. Like it's in Poland, it's 20 or 27 if you work for more than 10 years, or like you have 10 years work experience, where studying is counting towards this count. So right now I have 27 days, and it's guaranteed by the law. While in America, the guaranteed number is 0.
It's all left open to interpretation.
Yeah.
We have the best admins in North America. Okay. Are you familiar with like the Ukrainian TF2 community much? Like, has what's been going on in Ukraine been something that's really like affected the state of the Ukrainian TF2 community?
Okay, so I do know about some TF2 players from Ukraine. I know that some people just stopped playing because of the situation. Some people are just still playing because some regions of Ukraine are less affected by the war. So there's like close to no shelling, or just nothing happens. So people who just live there, if they decide to stay, they just play games. I know, like for example, there's a very popular jumper called Boshi. I think he still lives in Ukraine, and he was streaming TF2 while he was jumping. I know that there was one player or a few gamers who joined the Ukrainian army, and they were fighting, and they just told me about they sent me even images, photos, like straight from the front, and it was scary for me. It was really scary. Some people moved to other country. I lived very close to one Ukrainian gamer, and I met them a few times. I really remember that one of them was sleeping in my home once, because they just wanted to play some games, and I have pretty good connection here, like internet connection. So yeah, that's that. Also, I don't know if you know that, but in general, Ukrainian people speak Ukrainian and Russian, because like the west part of the Ukraine is more speaking Ukrainian, and the east part is with majority people speaking Russian. So people speak. Also most people in Ukraine in general knows Russian, because in that part of the world, so in countries like Kazakhstan, like Ukraine, like Azerbaijan, like Uzbekistan, I think this is like a place in the world where the most important language is not English but Russian. So I think like all of these people who live there, they also speak Russian besides Ukrainian. And I know that many people are playing pucks on TF2pickup.ru, so basically that's a Russian pickup website.
I see.
but just by speaking Russian.
Yeah. Thank you for that information. Very interesting to hear. Kind of sucks to hear that, yeah, it affects our community even, just an online community. But glad to hear that you're kind of able to offer some help and consolation to them.
I think there's one interesting story I had related
Sure.
to the topic. So basically, it was at the time when I was a league admin on ETF2L, and there was a match against between Ukrainian team and it was, I think, Arabic team, something like this. So yeah, they were just from Saudi Arabia or just regions around Saudi Arabia and Ukraine, and it was, I think it was like 2 or 3 days after the stage of war started in the last year, and I remember that these Arabic guys just came to us, to the league admin staff, and just asked us to cancel this match entirely. So they won't claim a default win for the match because these Ukrainians couldn't play for obvious reasons. And they felt like, okay, but it's just completely unfair to get a default win because they just have a war in their country. And it was quite a fair play. I really appreciate it, and we ended up canceling this match, so we just set it as 0-0. So it's like a nullified match. But I have to say, I just have a huge respect to this guy who just came to us and asked us for it.
Do you have any player names that come to mind from that story, the leaders of it?
I don't really remember. I think we were about to give him a fair play award, on the award history, but I don't know if we ended up doing it. No. I don't think so. No, because the last fair play award was given ages ago, so I don't think it's listed here. Or it was supposed to be a special award, but I think we just haven't done that, unfortunately. I remember he had a very goofy nickname because he had a nickname called King Amogus. But it's not much to say for me.
Big shoutouts to the Arabics.
King Amogus. Yeah.
Alright. Well, thanks for that story. Yeah, it's really wholesome to hear. Really nice to hear, genuinely. Okay. I believe we can probably move past that at this point. Definitely an interesting topic to sort of approach. I was actually curious, have you watched the Matt J interview or not?
Not really.
Okay. Well, I talked with him just a bit about the social and cultural differences between Western Europe, a bit of Eastern Europe, and also North America. I was interested to hear if you had any insight of the overall sorts of cultures of Eastern European countries, of Slavic countries, of the differences between them and the West, of I guess some of why they kind of have the social stances they do when it comes to LGBTQ stuff, if you'd be interested in sharing some insight on that at all.
Yeah, sure. So it's quite a political topic because it's not only about TF2, but it's about politics. It's about how people view things in their mind. Okay, so I can tell you that I perceived most Eastern European countries as more conservative. For example, Poland, we are quite conservative country in general. Even for some reason, someone invented a great idea, quote unquote, to just put a sign on some city entrance and name it as a LGBT free zone. And it's kind of insane, really. They ended up getting no dotations from the European Union for that. For the city, the European Union decreased the budget just because of the situation for that region of Poland. But in a cultural sense, I think it's just about having a different type of humor. Let's say Slavic people have different I would say humor sense, because they have different experiences from the past, because that's what develops us at some point. So, for example, people who lived in, I don't know, Spain, they didn't live the communist times when, for example, at the time in Poland, people were just sent to Gulag, and it's a real story. So they were sent to Siberia after the Second World War. They don't know anything about oppression we had in our country, and that develops some kind of common experiences, because it was like an experience for most Slavic countries, I would say. And I think the fun part of this comparison is when you look at the discourse of these countries. So when I just jump on the Polish Discord, I just know what kind of memes I can expect. But for example, if I just jump on the Russian Discord, that's it's a like completely different type of humor, and it's more rough, more raw, I would say. It's very often more racist, homophobic, and stuff like that. I'm not trying to embrace it here. That it's something cool. I don't think it's any cool, but it's just how some people are like, and I just want to accept the reality. How does it look like? And I just know that these kind of memes are just more common there than, for example, on our Discord, with Polish people or with Czech people. So that's that. I think also economical things makes us look at things different, because people who live on the west of Europe usually earn more money and just have better economical situation. So it was always like I don't think it was a strong fight between people from the west or the east. We don't have that kind of competition.
Okay.
But it's you cannot see it in America, because people speak one language, and we speak like 20 languages or 30 languages in Europe. That's like a completely different story. Some countries speak two languages. For example, Switzerland speaks German and French. For example, Belgium speaks Dutch and French. There's like many places where there are like multiple official languages, and I think this language barrier makes us way different when you look at each community.
That definitely makes sense. So
And,
go ahead.
and I think this is like what divides us, and like sites like, for example, TF2 Online, like TF2 Center, like Pickups. This was some kind of bridge between all of these people, and of course ETF2L. And there's some sort of group of people where some people just play with people from their own country, and that's it. They won't play with EU people in general, because in Europe we have we don't have. We just have a bunch of teams who just are one language country, language team. So they just speak their own native language, and some mix up, so they just speak English.
That makes sense.
That's a huge difference between us and the Americans.
So how would you even like administrate over all of that fairly? Like, what expectations would you have to sort of set, like for ETF12, for instance, or like, I guess after that question, how would a community like Uncletopia or something like that isn't competitive even like administrate?
Okay, so if you think about how should it work, then you need to realize what kind of communities are the biggest in the Europe. So the biggest player base is in the UK, in France, in Finland, in Russia, and in Poland. That's the biggest communities out there. And it's good to have someone who just speaks their native language. because some people are not capable to speak English on a level with good understanding during the conversation. So you just have an option to let somebody speak their language. So, for example, sometimes we had people from Latvia or Russia who weren't good enough with English, and we just had a dedicated person who just speaks natively Russian, and they could just speak with them in Russian, and afterwards they could just tell us about what happened, and if there's any support needed, they could just translate the conversation. When we didn't have any people from the team, we just asked, let's say, trusted people to translate the conversation. So, for example, let's say we had a ticket where we had to review some behavior because, let's say, some Finnish gamer set a gamer world, but we don't understand Finnish, so we just don't know if they spoke it or not. So we just need to ask someone who just speaks Finnish fluently to listen to the clip and assess the situation, what actually happened. And usually these people are just people who just have good standing opinion, I would say. So, for example, for me, well, right now there is a Finnish speaker in the staff, Nash. But when Nash wasn't there, I was asking Bloodis, because Bloodis was a head admin on TF2 and he speaks Finnish, so it's a great choice for me. So, somebody who with like outstandingly good opinion, or at least, acceptable opinion, to just keep it private for himself.
All right. Well, how do you how would you establish rules though if you have like all of these different kind of like cultures and subcultures with their own understandings of like morality of what you should and shouldn't say or do? Like, how would you sort of manage and combine all those expectations, I guess, when administrating for the region?
Okay, so in this kind of matter, you need to look for admins who have common opinion on matters. So, for example, if you're racist, then chances are pretty non-existent that you're gonna be in the staff. And it's not about saying the gamer world. It's just about having some kind of racist behavior. Because, for example, I just know people who says just hurtful things about people of different colors, and like personally, I don't care what kind of color people have. Like, if they are good people, then they are just good people. Even if they would be green, even if they would be reptilians, I can accept them if they are just fine people.
Reptilian lives matter.
Yeah. Yeah, so when we formed some kind of team like that, I mean, well, I wasn't forming it, but I was just part of that kind of team. Then we could just establish some kind of common ground, like a common sense we have on things in general. So, for example, we decided to punish harassment, like racism, sexism. For most people, it's just a common sense, right? But some people just say it's nothing and it's just a waste of time. And, well, I don't agree with that. Because the problem with the internet is that even if you say something hurtful to people, most people just feel consequences free, that, it doesn't really matter if you do that. And there's no way to defend yourself from that cases. And I think, getting banned on the website on which you're playing and caring a lot is some kind of limiter for this kind of behaviors. Because, even if we ban someone who is racist, that's unlikely to change his way of thinking about other races. It just gives him a sign that we'll just not accept this kind of behavior. So, what we can just do is to give a common ground for everybody where they can just feel safe about being there and just having fun. Because that's what we all came here for, just for having fun with some people. but in a competitive sense. That's the difference between casual and competitive.
I see. How about for like a more casual-oriented approach? I guess like what are some of the nuances between the casual and competitive community, especially when it comes to a region like Europe, with the differences in cultures?
I don't think there's any between like region, because people who play casual in Europe and in NA, I think have pretty much the same thing in mind, because it's just about having a different definition of fun. Because for me, dominating 9 players in the server is not fun already, because I've made it so many times with friends, so I just find it boring. I mean, if you do it like, I don't know, once 2 years maybe, then maybe it's just fun. It's like a joke you listen like 10th time already and you know the outcome. So it's not that interesting, at least for me, because uh, I expect something more interesting than playing against people who just don't know how to play the game. That's like, for me, I just expect something more from my opponents, so they can just surprise me with something they do. That's why I just find competitive more interesting. And these people just want to play on against people on their level, and they don't care about meeting up on screams, talking on voice chat a lot. They just want to click something and that's it. And I accept that. It's fine, because if that's what they want and that's what makes fun for them, it's win-win, I would say.
Yeah, of course. Um, you did like you did want to explore like some of the differences between competitive and casual as a whole, though. Yeah, like when we.
Okay, yeah. So there's a situation where a competitive player meets a casual. Uh, it's something where everything can happen, because it just depends on what kind of player the like both sides are. So, for example, uh, what? Me myself, I just sometimes feel when I'm talking with casual players that I'm just kind of Jehovah believer, like the guy who just knocks the door and just wants to talk about their religion, like competitive TF2 was a kind of religion. And like initially, I just wanted to encourage them to play competitive, because it's just more interesting. But sometimes I just met up with a wall, because they just don't want to do it. And I think over time I just realized that it's no sense to force somebody to do it, because if they don't like it, and even if the thing which was kind of hard to understand for me was that it was because I'm just looking at how do I think in my own perspective, and maybe not fully understand their perspective, because for me, I want to have some opinion on something and try something out. So let's say if I go to cinema and watch some movie, I can have some kind of opinion about this movie, if it's shit or good. And it was just hard to understand for me that some people don't want to play competitive, and they find competitive play shit and unfun, quote unquote, but they didn't even try it, so they don't have first-hand experience. I met some content creators. One of them was from Poland, and I just asked this person, so you're doing a lot of casual type of content, why don't you play competitive? Because if you're so much into it, I think you probably might have found it interesting. And their response was that they don't find it interesting because they've tried out and they just felt oppressed by people who played with them. Okay, so this is coming from a girl, and the problem is in the competitive community that girls aren't treated properly, in my opinion, because a lot of people just treat them like worst type of human, and it's so shit. because they just have a higher type of voice, and I don't feel okay with that, but I understand her reasoning here. And it was something, this is completely okay for me, but I was just not able to comprehend why people don't even try it, so they can just develop their own opinion about this thing. Also, like, there's something I don't really like in this kind of encounters, because there is some sort of people, and like these people are shit for me. Like I cannot treat it like human beings, because they just want to take some advantage against people who are just bad. And it's not only about winning games or just getting kills. It's about humiliating someone in a way. You just speak hurtful things to these people just because they play the game worse. And this is something I could never accept.
And that'd be for like competitive players that kind of speak down on casual players, or pub stompers that speak down on other players.
Yeah, exactly. Because if a competitive player comes on casual or on public server where there's like a lot of casual players, and he wins against them, that's kind of normal, because they play the same game and they just play it better. But I don't think it's a reason to take advantage of these people and just shit talk them because they just play worse. Because it's like engaging into a fight with a kid when you're a adult person. This is like some kind of feeling I have when I see these kind of situations.
That makes sense. So it's like kind of how you get to the point of there being just like, I guess, so many presumptions about competitive. Like, people see that this is a competitive player, like that's how they treat a person. Is that why you would kind of see so much of a divide between the casual and competitive community?
Yeah, because the problem is that when you're this kind of casual player being mocked by a competitive player who is just better in the game, like technically, some people just develop an opinion. Okay, if this kind of player plays competitive and he is like that, then probably the entire community is so toxic like that, and that's why a lot of people just don't want to play competitive, because of this toxic encounters. I think that's a huge problem. I didn't come up with an idea how to do it, how to resolve it, because I think there is not much you can do. You can technically, what you can do is to ban these people in the leagues, but then you just start turning on into a global police, like American in the politics, and
they have oil.
It's not always a good idea.
And then another kind of factor to consider is like when you have those sorts of people who put others down in casual, like, or like Uncletopia community servers, like a lot of the time they'll kind of like be grouped together, so it's like a person will look, they'll see that like, okay, there's multiple competitive players doing that, like that's probably the norm, right? Because they have their little friend group, and that friend group that kind of does those things, that kind of puts others down, might be the only experience a person has with the competitive community, yeah?
Yeah, that might be a thing. The people I play competitive are pretty chill, and I don't have that kind of bad experience. Of course, there are always black sheeps everywhere, but I've been trying to fight so long with this kind of picture of a competitive player being just so toxic, because it's an actual problem in the community, and I think this is something which prevents up from growing up, because if people notice that some competitive players are just literally hostile to them, they just don't want to play with them, because what's the point if you don't have fun?
Right. So you said you don't really like have that much of an idea of how to approach it necessarily?
Again, please?
You don't really have that much of an idea of how to approach it either, to like how to kind of resolve that issue, you said?
No, unfortunately not really, because leagues can ban these people, but you have to realize that casual players have no idea about some option like that, and also this would put leagues into a position where they have to moderate pretty much everything which happens in
Right.
TF2,
Even
like
outside
even
of
on
their own
casuals.
games.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is from practical point of view, where it just puts a lot of work into just looking that someone says who was in Paris.
So, would you want to explore like maybe three hypothetical ideas I would have of how that could potentially like kind of be approached?
Again, please, sir, I didn't get the question.
Uh, would you want to go through like three kind of like ideas I would have of how maybe competitive leagues could
Yeah, go
approach it?
ahead.
Alright, so the first idea I'd have would be, of course, collaboration with content creators, getting content creators to kind of just like talk about competitive, maybe like more interviews between competitive players and casual players, just kind of, people talking together. Like, I think another part of the equation is that a lot of the time there isn't necessarily that much active collaboration between the competitive players, the casual players who do have interest in competitive, and the competitive leagues. Like there's limited kind of outreach there, limited awareness spread from that. Like you'll have occasional competitive, like content creators that do play competitive, but then besides just like gameplay, uploads, memes, highlight reels, and whatnot, you don't necessarily see much of it. There isn't that much of a positive effect had from that, so that could be worth exploring potentially. Um, and then that would also sort of just help with how there's some content creators who kind of live by fueling animosity between, competitive and casual players. People like Zesty Jesus who will just, paint this horrible image of all the competitive players. So what do you think that could maybe help a bit?
Yeah, I think if that would be done with respectable content creators, then possibly that could just warm, the way competitive community is perceived by casual gamers. But the problem is, in my opinion, I don't think much people like from content creators are just interested in it because they can just stay in their own life. They own crystal ball where they just have their own things and they don't have to like bother about matters like this. It's none of their business. So I don't think. From technical point, it could be a great idea to, and it's good to if some people would embrace competitive play. But realistically, I don't think it's gonna happen because there's not much interest into it.
So how do you think we could kind of get to that point, I guess?
There were some kind of competitive content creators like Star. I was a huge fan of him, and I'm still a fan of him. I love this kind of TF2 content, and it was something I subscribed for, honestly. And if more content like this could come up nowadays, in a light, like soft sense, explaining what's competitive, how does it look like, maybe and showing some examples where this kind of content creator just engages into a competitive play, so playing sixes, screams, or packs, stuff like that could be a good option.
And I guess like to further explore that hypothetical, right, to like I guess make people care, to get people interested, like some of the potential benefits could just be like more kind of shared learning between competitive players and casual players. Content creators are always looking for that newest itch, that little advantage they can get with the algorithm, the newest fancy tricks they can use, and it's just like having competitive players kind of, in their pocket that they could just kind of interact with, that they could talk with, that they like treated as part of the same community could really, I guess, just sort of assist them in coming up with new ideas for content. They could give them some advice, they could share ideas, they can work together. And there's just a lot of strength in general from a community working with every part of it than just looking for reasons to work against each other or to treat each other like they aren't part of the community, yeah?
Yeah, but you have to also realize that content creators do content which is directed to some audience.
True.
So if someone always does content which is casual alike, they will just keep doing it because it gives them views and publicity, and some people just wouldn't risk of doing competitive content because they would just I just have a feeling that it would be not that much interesting. Also, you have to realize that casual players can just stay in their own bubble playing casual just because they just enjoy it and they just don't need anything more. Like
That's
people
fair.
who want to play competitive are usually people who are already bored by getting dominations on casual or on pubs like on Cultopia, and they just want something more, like better opponents, more challenge. And I think we are just missing this point here. Like even if we do some actions to make the competitive community look better in eyes of casual person, because what you want to make here is to just show these people how does it look like to play competitive, and show that it actually can be fun in some way of thinking. And that would be a goal to get more people to play competitive.
Right.
But still, you have to have people who actually want to get some challenge here. If they're okay with what kind of thing they have in casual, like the experience, if that's enough, I think they're unwilling to get something more if that's enough for them.
I guess like the only real last like thing I'd have to say to that as like some sort of counterpoint is that there'd still be benefit to like more humanization at the very least between like the competitive and casual sides of the game, so that everybody can enjoy it more. Like I think the more you just try and somewhat at least integrate the parts of the QA, the less you have just like random competitive players going in and ruining people's days in casual, making them feel horrible. Like I think it's just like we all play this game, but you know the more we just kind of normalize interaction between each other and treat each other as equals regardless of like how we play the game, like the more enjoyable it's going to be for everybody regardless of whether you play for like a competitive skill sort of thing or whether you just play it for fun, you know what I mean? Kind of like, I guess it's more of an abstract sort of thing, but I feel like it's important to pay attention to the potential benefit of that.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because I think a lot of, maybe not a lot of, but some content creators who just do casual type of content just demonized us just because of their previous encounters with these toxic competitive players, and they might perceive it like the whole community is like that, and that's not the case simply. And that could be a good option to show up that it's not a thing, that it's actually good, nice, enjoyable people in most cases.
Yeah, so I guess like the issue is like if we've kind of let that become the norm, like that's kind of on us. Like if that's all we let other people see, right? So it's like I guess like we'd still want to explore the other options, right? We'd want to see what we could do to sort of fix that up to make it more enjoyable for us, make sure we get more players in, and to make sure also that we're kind of protecting the casual player base more. We're making sure that we're actually trying to like work with them a bit, that we respect them. Yeah, like it's just, I guess it's a bit of a lofty ideal, but I feel like it'd be very beneficial all around. But point being, I think it's just time that like competitive as a whole either gives itself more of a voice or allows others to kind of help voice it, so that a lot less is left open to interpretation by bad actors and from bad actors. But I guess the two other hypotheticals I'd like to explore would firstly just be leagues doing content creation of their own more. Like, I don't know if you watch the RGL channel at all, but they have some video creators, they have some editors, and they'll do things that kind of, I guess, mostly appeal to the competitive audience, but then also to potentially to the casual audience. Like, they just get more kind of content in general out there. Like, they'll publish edited VODs of casted matches. They'll do small projects like Guess the Division, where it's just like players guess what division of players in, and it'll usually be tailored to kind of like the class they're playing. And it's just all sort of little interesting things that might not appeal the most to the casual player, but that gives anybody who does want to learn a bit more about the competitive scene and just see it more content out there. Like, do you think that would be something that would be kind of beneficial to see more across the board?
Yes and no, but I'll start with the fact that I love what RGL does in that point, really, because this is something in which RGL does way better than ETF2L, because the publicity RGL gets with that some sort of content is good. Is something which embraces playing competitive, and because these videos look goofy, really, and I saw Guess the Thief because I think someone sent me the video because there was a clip of Mezzo just trying to destroy the dispenser, and it was so hilarious to see it. So yeah, I saw it. It was quite funny, and it's a interesting convention. I would love to see things happening like this in the Europe as well. Well, yeah, I think I kind of envy when I'm kind of envious when I look at these kind of things which RGL does, because they are doing a really good job. With streaming, it's a little bit different story because the thing is that TFTV and Kritzcast are pretty much active in that sense, and they kind of monopolize the sides of streaming. So pretty much every event is streamed by TFTV if it comes to sixes, and if it's about Highlander, it's streamed by Kritzcast. They're also doing a good job because they cover up a lot of interesting games. And if ETF2L was about to do something like this, we'd have to at some point compete with people with whom we are collaborating right now. And the main reason is the staff. So when you look at the amount of people who work for RGL in general, how much people is this? Like, I think it's like 50 people.
It's pretty up there. Some of it, like, I couldn't really give you too accurate of an answer because some of it would be kind of confidential with some of the internals, things that aren't listed publicly.
Okay, but it's more about estimates. So it's maybe like 50, 60 people, right? For ETF2L, it's like 12.
I'd say
or like, I don't know, 18. It's like 3 times less what we have, which is bigger on ETF2L than AC. I think we have a bigger anti-cheat stuff. But when you look at how much people takes care of the league in general, it's way bigger on RGL, and I think it's a good thing because you can just divide the responsibility on more people and make ensure that the job is being done, basically. Because at the end of the day, all of these people, like you and like me, do the job for free. And I'm not trying to treat it as a shield for every single bad thing which RGL and ETF2L does bad. But I think if we just had more people to do things, to prepare that kind of stuff, then it could be an option. But for ETF2L right now, with having that side of stuff and that much contributions, I don't think it's possible. I think if ETF2L was about to do something like RGL does from marketing perspective, we just need way more people to do that. Because right now we have we just don't have enough, let's say, quote unquote, resources to cover this stuff.
Yeah, alright. So how would you kind of get to that point? Like, would integration of those services you'd potentially be competing with be a potential solution?
Well, this is what we do, basically. Like, Kritzcast does streaming for Highlander, and for example, they also do shows, like award shows after the seasons, with cooperation with us. And we also do the same thing with TFTV, and I think it's a good deal because from practical point of view, they do the stuff. So they do the production. Then they cover up the moderation of the chat. They prepare everything, and we just come as a guest here. So from practical point of view, they should get the money they get from advertisements and donations and stuff directed to them. So I'm okay with that kind of system. I think it's good because if they weren't in place here, then nobody would do it.
Yeah.
So they just cover up the void which would be if they weren't be there, which I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it sounds very nice to have. I guess the last sort of aspect of this would be like, what about collaboration between leagues potentially? Like, is that something you've really been doing like in TF2? Is that something you see there being practical benefit in? Like, I guess stuff like region wars in the past, nations cups, like just sort of little things like those, or active discussions between just like staff from different regions.
Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think there is much window to do in that kind of sense because, well, ETF covers up games for people from European countries and from countries nearby. So, for example, we cover Asia at some point, Africa, and Middle East. And these people are pretty much not able to play with Americans because of the distance, like physically, and it's about
and
the
then
things.
Time zones also sometimes.
Yeah, that's another issue. So I think what like the state we have right now, where we take care of the European part, and RGL does care of the American part, is a good thing because Americans know themselves better than us, and they just understand the reality of people who live there way better. So it's easier to get some common sense, like common ground and understanding. And in that way, Americans might have some problems with understanding Europeans in some kind of topics. And it's not that complex, I would say. It's just about we just know people who live there. We just know what to expect from certain individuals. That's just it. What's good thing would be for I would say cooperation between leagues is to have a common whitelist. Common rules. But it's also, a conflict of interest between leagues because, for example, we care the most about Europeans, RGL cares most about Americans, and you need to meet somewhere in between in order to get some relationship.
Right.
And there are so many matters which divides us. For example, I think the most infamous one is Market Gardener on Sixes. Because it's banned on ETF2L and it's allowed on RGL. Well, personally, I'm a big fan of Market Gardener and I would love to see it unbanned, but there are good arguments to have it banned. And what we did on ETF2L was to just poll it amongst the Premiership players, and they just wanted it to be out. And I remember that the last vote I've made, like the last poll, had like 70% of people who didn't want it. That's quite a lot. So, we just followed this result.
What about just like more content creation between competitive players of different regions, like unified projects or something like that? Just like a channel maybe where it's like you have a ton of stuff from a ton of different regions, and maybe that could also appeal more to like casual players, like maybe guides, stuff like that.
Okay, and this is where the interest comes in because, technically it's something interesting, but I think nobody has an interest in doing so. Because what's the point for RGL to do some content related to Europe while they just don't profit from it at all. And the same goes both sides. Well, in terms of let's say exchange between Americans and us was say Nations Cup, but I don't recall US taking part in it in sixes for like ever. I don't know if this is something I can look up actually, but the only American team which was playing on ETF2 like as a national team was a Highlander team, because well, American Highlander players are pretty strong, and it always was a huge competition on the Nations Cup. So it was always like kind of fear that okay, we might lose against them because we know they are strong, even if they play with 160 ping, which was kind of crazy that you can win against a top tier team with having so much advantage in reactions in the game. But yeah, it was still a thing, and well, even at some point, the US managed to win the Nations Cup, so they even won actual cup in the Europe while not being here, which was kind of funny. But it's not the case anymore. For Highlander, the best country right now is Poland, 2 times in a row. I hope we'll just keep the winner title for the third time, because I think the Highlander Nations Cup will be this year again. Yeah, because it's like each year we host a different game mode Nations Cup. So last year it was for sixes, so this year it should be for Highlander.
So,
but yeah, well, I know I didn't respond for your question. I don't think there's, maybe there is something to do here, but I'm just lacking ideas what to change.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to change anything. It would just be like, if you think about it, right? Like, a lot of YouTube is just sort of algorithmic, right? So if you just create like one channel, kind of like funneled people into it, eventually maybe like one of the videos will get enough view if it appealed to like every competitive region by incorporating like every competitive region by just working with people from each region, that maybe eventually like you'd see some more of it naturally spread to like a wider casual audience if there was just sort of one unified place for like resources for general discussions. Like, it could just be like podcasts or stuff. It wouldn't even have to be something like super official, but just general projects between players from different regions. I guess, like, do you think that could lead to maybe more growth and awareness between casual competitive players?
Well, I don't think so, because it's not about what's the region in which you're playing. It's about just watching the content from certain type of watching certain type of content you like, and it doesn't matter if you live in the US or in Australia or in Europe, because if you speak English, then it's enough. Like that's enough to satisfy most of the people, because a lot of people who just watch things on YouTube just speak English.
That's fair.
And you don't need to like limit yourself to be strictly American or European, because it doesn't really matter if
which side
if
are you on?
Well, I think it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, of course. But okay. Yeah, it's fair. Definitely just a bit of a weird idea. But so what impact could the average competitive player have though? Just like talking with casual players, giving them a positive experience, like kind of representing a better side of competitive, I guess, yeah?
No, I don't think it's gonna be a good thing, because it sounds like a political propaganda, honestly. And it's just, I don't think it would ever work out, because if someone likes it, then they will just like it. And
oh no, I don't mean content creation wise. I just mean like day-to-day interactions.
I think we just by talking about it, we just come to the first idea you gave about content creators doing some content competitive related, where they could just play games and show that actually it can be enjoyable. I think that would be a way out.
That's fair. I'd agree with that, but then I'd also take it to the extent of like stuff like podcasts. Like, I think there's just benefit from like even if you're not like that much of a content creator yourself, just like involving yourself more in like the wider community, being involved more in discussions and just treating people as equals, I guess. Like is what I was trying to get at. Like I think I would argue there'd be benefit to that.
Well, I think treating people equally shouldn't be, a topic to discuss anywhere because it just should be a thing.
It is. No cap. Anyways, okay. I think that well does that topic justice. It's not really discussed that much, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is, but then also if you're coming at, from an opposing perspective, you're just like a casual player, you might not understand all the nuance that like the competitive players see it from, that like, we'd be dealing with it. So I think it's good to have it out there.
The thing is if you have to ask yourself if a casual player needs to know it or just finds it interesting, right? Because if not, then what's the point of going on?
Yeah, but there kind of has to be something to fulfill their interest if they do have interest in the first place, like it's just like there's not that much representation.
Yeah, I think this reminds me about some kind of content where content creators for doing some content for casuals explaining basics about how weapon works, like I don't know, like axe extinguisher, stuff like that. And when I look at it, I just feel, well, it's kind of obvious. Why do you make a video about it? Because you can just read it in the Wikipedia, and that's all you need to understand. But somehow people watch it. So well, it's a real deal here for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, like just having a person attached, kind of having a face to attach to it, having a memory that kind of develops, like really goes a long way compared to just reading text. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about just kind of the method where that's transmuted through, I guess. But okay, yeah, I think we can move on from that topic. That was one bit of a tangent, but realistically, we were going to get around to it later anyways, so not a huge deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you go from playing casual to competitive?
Me personally?
Yes. Like, what initially raised your interest? How do you kind of get into it? When did you get into it?
Okay, so for me, it was just boring to dominate all of the people on casual, and
Right,
I just saw some people who play on casual. I mean, it was just pubs because there was no casual at the time. So I just found some people who also play good, like me at the time, because I was thinking that I'm actually good at the game. And we just formed like a friend group, like some kind of circle jerk, when we just play together. And we just found it cool that we have some kind of group, clan, stuff like that. And we kind of shared this kind of experience that playing on pubs is already kind of boring because it's like no challenge, especially when we played together. So we just wanted to push it to the limit and just play with somebody better, and that's how we found out TF2, and we just made a team together, and just started looking how this entire system looks like. At the time when I was starting, it was I think 2012. There was no websites like TF2 Pickup. There was no TF2 Online, no PugChamp, no stuff like. There was TF2 Lobby at the time, and it was there was a lot of bots on IRC. This kind of very old chat. And these bots were supposed to, organize bugs. It's something like bots do on Discord nowadays, on some American groups, because I know like American groups use it at some point. So yeah, that was pretty much the same thing, but 10 years ago. And that's how we just get into it, get into playing mixes with people. Well, I'm a kind of Highlander player, so we just made a Highlander team and we just started playing some game. I think the first season I've played was Highlander Season 4. We now have Highlander Season 28. So yeah, it's been a while. And after winning with some teams formed from casual gamers like us, we just wanted to get some better players and just get into the top, because it's always cool to hear that you're a Premiership player in Europe.
Oh yeah.
Just like invite in NA. So yeah, that was the thing which pushed me to play competitive. Also, I just had fun with these people, even if we were getting mad about doing some silly things during the games. It was still enjoyable. That we had to form some tactics to play it. Even if we played in like open on low division, it was called Division 5 at the time. But it was kind of cool for us, like interesting, because it required us some kind of creativity on looking what's the option to play the map we've played for ages, but against people who actually know how to play the game.
I see. And what was the state of competitive like back then? Was it like more vibrant than it was now? Was there more active interest and passion in the community? More projects, anything like that?
Well, I think for comparison with what we have right now, we had way more gamers in the game. That's the biggest thing. There were more incentives, like there was ECA, there was ESL League for TF2. TF2 was more often on the LAN events, I think. But honestly, when I look at how does it look right now, I don't think it's any bad, because there are still many options to play on LANs both in Europe and America, and I'm grateful for that. I think when you look at the difference, it was the difference between skill. It was way lower. Like people just didn't know the game so well. There was a completely different meta at the time. But still, I think the biggest factor in the difference was the amount of gamers playing the game. There was like different incentivize for watching streams, because, for example, there was a Vanilla TV at the time. I don't know if you recall their streams.
I do.
Yeah, so it's something which I also enjoyed a lot, because I was watching these Premiership games, and I also know some people who were playing at the time, and they when I just mentioned the same matches, they know what I'm talking about, because I was watching Highlander, and I was watching a lot of games between Tweak and Flippy. They were like Premiership players in Highlander. They were kind of the best players around, and it always it was like watching a competition between Bunny and Talash back in time from Sixes, but in Highlander, and it was really cool to follow.
Always good to have some good old lore.
Yeah.
Okay. Was the competitive meta like a lot different back then? How is it sort of like changed, I guess?
Well, there are some changes because, for example, there were a lot of items unavailable at the time. Some items work differently. So, for example, when I've been playing TF2, this heavy sandwich was when you just throw it on the ground, you can just heal yourself like a normal health pack instead of just picking it up. So it's like you are just trying to run away from your opponents, and you can just change the sandwich, throw it, and get some buff even if you're completely alone. So at some point, Heavy could just play completely alone sometimes, and Heavy was the strongest class at the time. So you can imagine that the pushes in the tactics were kind of heavy focused. Right now it's mostly focused on Demo because Demo does more damage, and it's not only because of the changes for heavy for damage on the startup when you do a ramp up in the 2 seconds. It's about the fact that just nobody brought up that idea that you can just play with demo as a main damage dealer. And I think it's mostly about some ideas not being developed yet. Also, there was no Iron Bomber at the time.
Oh no.
I'm just thinking about other differences. Also, Last Eternal Reward was working differently because when you had the familiar set with L'étranger and with Eternal Reward, then if you get a kill, it was like completely silent, so you didn't hear anything. So it was actually advantageous to wear these items. And it was kind of cool.
The Saharan Spy?
Yeah, exactly. That's how the set is being called.
Okay, definitely a bit different back then. Yeah. Would you say that like the heavy guy being meta for so long, like for so long as the center of the team, like even in competitive, like would that kind of solidify the whole like pub medic stereotype thing that just pockets a heavy, or do you think that it's just kind of there regardless of what competitive players would do?
Well, I think it's just the easiest strat in the game. That's why people just play it.
No, I meant for like the medic pocket.
If you just push it to the competitive, that was just the result. That's how it happened in the competitive.
Yeah, but do you think it kind of being meta in competitive like had an influence on like the whole pub medic stereotype that just like perma heals the heavy or nah?
No, I just think that when you don't do much, you always just in the game you always think about what can I do better, how I can just take advantage of on the opponent. And this is the easiest way out. You can just put a lot of heals on the heavy, shoot everybody, and just be super safe if there's no sniper or spy around. It's just an easy strat. It doesn't mean it's effective. It's just easy. And over the time, it just gotten a little bit worse in competitive scheme of things. But it didn't change at all in casual, because the differences which were made in the game didn't change the fact that it's still easy and viable thing to do on casual. That's why people just play it on casual. Also, there's one more important thing which I didn't mention about the way it looked like in the past, is that the Highlander was way stronger back then. There is a clip from Nations Cup. It was a final match between the USA and France. You can watch it because it's in top 10 players of the month on the 10th place, I think. It's in September 2013, and the clip was from Sigafu. So the way he defended the sentry was just enormous, because I remember that that was the push on it was on Barn Blitz last. So I remember that Sigafu just put a sentry next to the spawn, and even if they came up with Uber, like medic heavy Uber, and just spamming sentry, like standing literally next to him, he was able to manage to just heal the sentry entirely, and just deflect the entire Uber just by doing the sentry work. And it's something you'd never do today. Again?
What year did you say it was?
So it was top 10 place of the month from September 2013.
2013, okay. Alright,
I hope I recall it correctly, but I'm a type of guy who remember dates much, I would say.
So, what do you think was, like, what were the main factors leading towards Demoman becoming the center of the team? Like, I do find it interesting that the Heavy used to be more meta and stronger than the Demoman in, like, a competitive sense as, like, the center of the team, because with, like, the Love and War update, they got, Demo Man received the damage ramp up. So it's like, to me, I'd think that the Demo Man would have been known as stronger before that point. But I guess the understanding of the game also hadn't developed enough before that point, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's basically the thing. That's why. I mean, there was some teams who played with demo, but I think not that much people developed some kind of strategies that you can just do more damage with the demo. I mean, some people, some teams definitely played like that, but I was open at the time or like low, so I didn't have that much of good understanding, and there were still a lot of people like teams who use this kind of strategy with playing on heavy, as a heart of the team, and since it was viable, they could just stay with it. And later on, when people were just continuing to play, when they just got beat up by demo-centered, let's say, gameplay, they just need to rethink their strategy and make some changes in order to just have bigger chances to win, because that's what makes you win, basically. And that's how people just get rid of playing heavy as a main character in the game.
Right. So like, when would you say the turning point kind of was with the meta?
I think it's 2015.
2015,
something around
okay.
that. Yeah,
So a year after 11 War. Okay. What do you think Highlander would look like if Demo Man had no ramp up?
By what sense? You mean by mechanical changes, or
like with the damage ramp up? Like if that change never occurred?
Well, I think a lot of people will just continue playing with heavy. At some point, I mean, I think this kind of heavy playing schema would just stay a little bit longer. But eventually, since playing with Demo Man is just more viable, it will just die down, but just later.
I see.
Because when you look at the way sixes were played back in time, just as in at this time when heavy was like the main character, people on sixes were playing with shotguns. And now, do you recall like people playing with shotguns not for meme, like seriously?
I don't think so. Shotgun pocket.
Yeah, but for example, in Europe, I think most people just play, like most soldiers play with gunboats.
I'm pretty sure most people in general play with gunboats now, yeah.
Yeah, and it was not a thing at all there. I mean, it was like less popular to just play with two soldiers without shotguns. It was something unheard of, I think. Or just at least way less popular. You can notice it that when you look frag movies from 2013, you see a lot of shotgun frags, and when you compare it to clips from people playing nowadays, shotgun kills are pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, it's all about those air shots and flick shots.
Yeah, and market gunner shots if you watch American players.
True.
I still really envy having market gardener, because I think it's a lovely weapon, but at some point it might be too OP, especially if you play against a player called Newbie or Jay, because these people just can take advantage of this weapon to an extreme that at some point you're not able to just defend the medic. I think that was the main argument to ban this weapon in EU.
I see. Let's see. They started off. Okay, I think that's about good for that topic. Bit of a heavy topic, you could say.
Yeah, quite technical.
Quite even. Okay. Next up, let me take a drink of water real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
I just feel bad about that. I'm not getting that much of hydrated like you. But yeah, it's the right thing to do.
You gotta stay hydrated. Stay
Yeah.
woke. Uh, okay, let's refocus back to your competitive career for a bit. So you started off in Div 5.
It's a
When
bold
was kind
statement.
when
A
was kind of like
competitive career. Huh? Oh, sorry, but I didn't hear it. I mean, a TF2 career is a bold statement in general. You're muted.
yeah, I accidentally muted myself. Okay, that'd be why. Alright, we're good. We're good. So, what was like the turning point in your TF2 career, I guess? Like, competitively, if you ever had one, or like, what was the point where you started being more interested in like the community when you kind of got to the point where you'd want to administrate for it, I guess?
So I think I had this kind of blink for a long time because when I was a casual gamer, I already learned how to manage servers. So I just wanted to get some, server admin position in some, servers like because back in time there was like many servers like Uncle Topia, and I just wanted to administer one of them. That's how I got it up to community matter of things, and I just find it interesting that I can just deal with things so people just can have better experience in playing games. Uh, so after a longer time, I made a Discord for Polish community, which is called Team Fortress 2 Polska right now. And well, right now it has like 850 people, so it's quite a lot for one country community. But at the time it was, I was just thinking, okay, that could be just a common spot for everybody who play TF2. And I'll just start inviting my friends so we can just sit there together and just talk and have fun. And that's how I made it up. I think it was like 2 or 3. No, actually, it was like 3 years ago. Oh wait, it's actually even 4. But anyway, I'm drilling a little bit. So I was just trying to get some people, spend some time together because we can just play something together, like mixes, and that's because the Polish community was kind of divided back then. So there were like only small groups of people who just played together, and I thought, well, we can change it and we can make everybody play together. So we can just play more competitive, potentially, so make some more teams, and that ends up in just playing the game more. That's why I made this Discord, and it just slowly increased with people just coming up, having some interest in the people who just play around, and that's how it ended up being so big. Right now, it's most of the people who are on the Discord are competitive players. This is something where I felt because when I was making the Discord, I thought like, okay, maybe that will be just commonplace for everyone. But unfortunately, I didn't manage to make it a good place for casual players. Because of this kind of competitive versus casual war. So there is a different Discord where most of the casual players are, and it's not something I made, but it's just a server Discord for Polish people. I mean, it's not about being for Polish people. It's just made by Polish people. The main language here is Polish, and that's how people are there. And when I made this Discord, I also decided to make a offline event, so we can just meet up together with some friends. I play with for a long time, and just play some TF2 together, and in the meanwhile grab some beers and simply have fun and just enjoy the company. So that's how I ended up doing an event called LAN Silesia. So the name comes from Silesia, and it's a region of Poland which is on south, with the capital of Katowice. Katowice is a city you could hear about because it's a popular place due to events which are there.
Yeah, I think like DreamHack at one, like there's been DreamHacks, right?
No, because but Intel Extreme Masters is a series which is there every year.
Okay.
From 2013, every single is been there. I think it's even longer than 2013. I was on most of these events physically, and back then I know that a lot of people who I know, like my friends, were coming there to watch some CS:GO games. And well, I was going there with the same purpose, but I thought like we can just use it as an opportunity to play some TF2 on the side. But obviously nobody would agree on setting some computers in the venue for Intel Extreme Masters without having some business so that would require money. And I had an access to a venue which was in the Katowice from an NGO which I was part of, and I just used it for hosting an event, and I think it was like 8 people. So you can see how it looked like if you go on a site called Poland.tf. There's a gallery with every single edition I've made because it ended up being a series of events.
Yeah, I'm taking a look through it right now for the recording.
So, the initial idea was like, okay, I can just sit with my friend Maue and just play MG for the entire day, and I'm gonna have fun, even if nobody will go there. But it ended up people just coming up and just talking and playing. But my main point was not about only playing TF2, but just socializing a little bit. So I could just meet these people more, just know them better from a little bit different perspective than I had, with daily experience with them playing TF2. Because I could just see them, know how they react, and this was just an interesting thing for me. And this kind of event just pushed me further into making again and again, so more people just can experience this whole thing. So after that I just decided to make this event once more, because I thought like, okay, if 8 people came up, then maybe if I make it again, more people will just come up.
And how has that turned out so far?
And well, it was a success because each time we just made an event in the summer, we always had more people. I also decided to make another event, which was in winter, but we had like way less people. It was more cozy, I would say. It was like we just had some stations we bring from homes together, and we had some vodka, and we were just chilling with playing some sixes mixes because we didn't have enough people to play anything else. So it was like we've been just playing some chill mixes, and in the meanwhile we had some breaks to just talk about anything and just drink some alcohol. Because most of the pretty much entire group of people which were there were adults, so we could just do that. And I started this series in, I think it was 2018. Well, it's been a while. Yeah, the first one was in 2018. Then I made another event in summer, which was kind of because I think it was like 13 people. The winter was really cozy in 2019, but I think the real to nowhere was in the summer in 2019, because we had 38 people with their own machines, and it was a big deal because the thing was, this venue I had, it had some desks and chairs, but it was it was okay for like 12 people, maybe 18 people if you push it for the limit, and people just sit like this. So
Sort
I got
again.
an
So like,
so like people just be like have so small space to just actually do anything.
people
So
compression.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, I was going through the galley. I didn't get to see what you were like doing when you said sit like this.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, there. That's
Yeah. So I made a set of things to make this event like actually be hostable for more people, and I brought up an idea of bringing up chairs and desks from my school, because I'm living like 20 kilometers from this place, and I'm living almost next to the school, and I get an agreement with the grandmaster that I can do it in exchange that I would just do some lectures related to IT, because it was IT. I was learning IT in that school, and I was pretty good at it. So I thought it's just a fair deal to do that. It was offer of mine. I suggested that it could be a good thing to have this sort of exchange, and it worked out pretty well because people enjoyed it much. After that, we had I think one of the funny thing from this event was that we had an invention of doing a sixes versus Highlander event. So what we did was to bring up some sixes players, like good sixes players, and put them against 9 people, and they just did a match on sixes and Highlander maps, to just draw out a winner. It was kind of goofy because it wasn't like a very serious match, but it was just funny to watch, and people just had a blast here. So that was basically my point. I think we've streamed that in English, but unfortunately I don't have a recording of it. But it was fun, and we enjoyed it. It was the first encounter where we had so many people here. I think when you are on this website and you have a set of galleries, I think the third screenshot, it's in the dark room with many people sitting next to the computer. Do you see it?
which event would that be for 2022?
No. So basically, when you go on this website, I told you, and you just scroll down to the galleries section, and you have these photos in the background. You can see the third photo with many people sitting on the next to.
Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah, this is basically the event from what I'm talking about, and this kind of view was kind of magic for me because I was living with a thought that I will never go on a big event because I won't be able to afford it, like going on Insomnia or Copenhagen Games or stuff you have in NA. So I thought like, okay, so at least I'll just have my little world where I have my own LAN, and this is the way we can just experience it without spending a lot of money. Yeah, but afterwards there was a COVID thing, so we couldn't do anything. And the first event we did was in 2022 in summer, and we moved from Katowice to Łódź because the NGO I was taking the venue from was disbanded, so we couldn't use this venue anymore. And we wanted to find some new place to do it because honestly, this place we did this event was looking like a warehouse because it wasn't painted. It was just a bare venue with almost nothing inside, except some technical stuff because it was a hacker space basically.
Makes sense.
So Okay, so we found a venue called Basestack. You can just type basestack.gg in the browser to find out. So basically, that's a place where you can just get some people and go there to play some games. It's pretty cool because it just looks like a gaming space to play games. It's uncommon in Poland. It's more common in West EU countries, like especially Germany. Germany a lot has way more stuff of such type, which I also envy. But it's kind of unique. There's 93 seats where you can play.
Wow.
So basically, well, that's just quite a lot of space, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And the thing is that these machines are capable of running TF2 on 240 Hz setup smoothly.
Ooh, nice.
So I thought, okay, this is actually a good opportunity to gather these people we had on the last event once again and make it a cool event. And I knew that, for example, Czech community, which is our neighbor, also had some attempts with doing their own LAN. So they did an event for like 20 people in Prague. But they weren't able to gather enough people to do a proper event themselves. So, and I knew about it, and I just contacted them and said, guys, maybe you just come to us and we'll play together. And that worked out because we had two Czech teams, two Czech Sixes teams, and there was like one Slovakian. So we had like 12 people from outside of Poland. And this time we had 60 people playing. So it was a even bigger success than in 2019, which I'm really happy about. We hosted okay, so every single time we did an event, we've been playing MG because we are tryhards.
Always on the grind.
And we always wanted to make a cup to find out who's the best MG player in Poland. So it was like on every single edition, like once a year. In the summer editions only. That's important. It was only on summer edition because it was supposed to be, the best player of this year. And I can I can show you the photo later.
Sure.
For 2019 event, I made a small prize for the MG Cup winner. It was only for Soli. So I remember that I bought a pillow. Sorry, it was a towel with the description for the sweatiest TF2 player in 2019. And it was also with engraved meme of the sweating guy, trying to use tissues and, trying to drag him out. It was kind of goofy, and I thought it's gonna be just funny to do that. And in the last year, we had a little bit better prices because we decided to make physical trophies. We just ordered a trophy with TF2 logos, and we did physical medals. You can see it in the 2022 summer gallery that there are some photos with medal owners. So it was kind of funny because I'm pretty sure you have a lot of people who care a lot about medals in the TF2. Yeah. So it was a big deal. And it was kind of goofy that you can just get a medal in the game. I think it was a good option because I don't know if you know about that, but you can't add medal items to the game anymore. Like new medals.
So I've heard.
Okay, so technically it's a problem because we had like more and more models in the game. So the TF2 game developer decided to stop adding new models because if you have more models in the game, then you have to load more, and it's just resource expensive for the computer to just run a game with so many models to handle at the same time. And what leagues did in order to maintain leagues medals for the next season was to just reuse the same model and just rename it as a different weapon, different item. So, for example, each time, let's say there's a next season of ETFTRL 6s, a head admin contacts Valve to just add a new item called, let's say, ETFTRL season 91 6v6 Division 1 winner. And you have just medals for every single division with certain, model, which is in the game already, and they were just doing it on request of this leagues, and it goes for every single medal distribution owner. So it goes from UGC, RGL, and every single org which have their own item in the game. And we couldn't add anymore because they just didn't want to do that, and probably nobody would just agree on reusing their model because they were designed specifically for some org. So we thought like, okay, maybe physical medals are an option. It's still a souvenir from this event, because this is the main point. Why do you get medals? And it worked out because people enjoy it. Oh, actually, I have one because I was second on one cup, so I'm gonna show you.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put it in the camera. That's gonna be a crazy flex. That's how medal looks like.
Damn, this man's got TF2 in real life.
Yeah, and that's the reverse.
Respect.
That means second place in B-Ball tournament #Poland.tf 2022.
Who got first place?
It was a Czech team.
I
think it was Breeze with. I'm not quite sure. I think it was SNH.
Damn, sounds like a real checkmate.
Yeah, I was unfortunate, but I had fun and I had a blast with these guys. These guys are so funny. We lost with 1 point with my teammate Shadow, but I had really fun to play it. Unfortunately, our demos are gone, and I had a blast because I hit so many crazy air shots. But this was like a game I really cared about, and I was trying hard to win. But yeah, we had like medals for this for B-Ball, for Ulti Duo. We had a trophy for MG Cup for soldiers, MG Cup for scouts, and there was a Draft Cup, which is a Sixes Cup, but we made it in a way we made it in like it's. Do you recall how draft works in NBA?
Vaguely, yeah.
Okay, so basically there are just some groups and they just pick up players. So we made it in a way we just had some captains, and these captains were just picking out 3 people which were on the event, and they just formed a Sixes team in during the event and just played with it. And since there was just a very small choice of Czech people, we let them form the teams themselves. And honestly, it wasn't the best idea because they just formed a tryhard team which kind of win the event. And there was a high skill difference between them and these randomly formed teams. So this time when in this year when we do this event, we decided to just make a normal Sixes Cup where you can just sign up with the sweatiest team you can just get around.
Yeah.
We also during this event made a show match, which was Poland versus Czech Republic.
How'd it go?
Well, we lost against Czechs. I think it was 2-1 in maps, and we lost in a golden cup.
What maps were there?
It was definitely Process. It was probably Gully Wash, and I don't really remember. I think it was also Snake Water. But it was really close. But yeah, unfortunately they played better, and I still respect that.
Would you win versus them in Highland?
Well, it's a pretty obvious question.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, of course, because we are the best in Highlander.
understandable.
But maybe not me, but people who actually are good, they would win with them surely.
What would the hypothetical team be?
Of Polish people,
Yes.
um, okay, so I think we could have Unforgiven on Spy, Stinkan on Sniper, Doom on NG, Graba or Xio on Medic, on Heavy. We had Bartis at the time, but nowadays it could be Elysioner, for example. For Scout, it could be Sam. For Soldier, there are many options, but I think Kafka is the best in Poland, like on Highlander. And for Pyro, it could be Tercio. Tercio could also play on demo, but there's just many good choices. So I'm not quite sure would I pick if I would be a captain of the national team. But I think this kind of team is already strong, and most of these players were in a team which actually won the Nations Cup twice. So
Would that be
So
like
I
Envision or
think-
something?
huh?
Would that be like Envision or something?
Well, Envision was made by Stinkan. No, actually, like some of the players from Envision were playing in the Polish national team, but Envision is an EU team. It consists of players from different countries. Like Piaczka is Slovenian, for example. Who plays there? I don't follow up because what's the roster of Envision because I haven't been watching streams lately. But we can just look it up quickly. So now actually they removed the roster, but by looking at the team they have Grip on Pyro, Piaczka on Scout probably, Unforgiven on Spy, Silver Master is a Medic main, Asux is on NG, Sinkan was a Sniper main, but he plays on Heavy right now, Davey plays on Demo, Norby, of course, on Sniper, and Kafka on Soli. That was the team they've played last time. It was like 2 weeks ago.
I
And
see.
they lost against Fela. So yeah. Now we ended up. I didn't tell you about the sign-ups for the event we are going to have right now. So it's gonna be in July. Usually I pick up a date which is close to my birthday. Because I avoid making birthday parties. So
Fair.
I just rather just have a birthday when I just spend time with people I like, and that's why I was just doing it around my all of these events around my birthday, and it's gonna be in the between 21st and 23rd of July in Łódź. The entrance is pretty cheap because it costs 300 zloty for an adult to come. So 300 zloty to USD is like $68
Oh, that's not bad at all.
for full setup, basically. And if you were a minor, then you will pay around $50. And
Sounds like a steep.
it's a price for 3 days, basically. So, for 3 days where you play 11 hours a day. So I would say, it's quite small price, for that. And that's an advantage of living in Poland because everything is so cheap here. So it's also that cheap, I would say, in comparison to other countries.
Do you get
Because,
Oh, sorry.
Huh?
I was gonna ask, do you get any casual players coming in as well, or not really?
No, not really. I think it's not targeted to casual players because
Fair.
These people who play casual, they can just meet up anytime in any place, and they can just play it casual like we play competitive. But there is no incentive for them to meet up because I don't think they are kind of people who who could care that much to to meet somebody. Maybe some content creator like YouTuber or streamer, but not like other
That's
players.
fair.
Or maybe it's just I'm generalizing here, but I would say it would be way less common than for competitive players. Because being a competitive player for me, like it led me to meet many people in the Europe in general. Not only in Poland by these lands, or by meeting up privately, but I also met up with some people in Germany privately, in France, just because we've played TF2 together at some point.
Right. Okay. So what sort of effect has putting yourself in that position, like doing these lands, what sort of effect has that had on your life? Like, how has that shaped you as a person?
Okay, so besides me having addiction to play computer games,
Who doesn't
I
these
think
days?
well, a lot of people.
Damn, right.
It's
Fucking
just
normal
having
people.
it's just
Whee!
having if someone rather to watch Netflix that their shows, right? I'm just interested in other things. I think it made me more organized because I use this kind of knowledge in organizing things, in knowing more about computers, because uh, getting to know how to set up TF2 servers. I pushed this topic further to just learn some more computer science. To know how to set up Linux, to know how to use operating system, and that made me get a job basically in that field. So right now I'm just working as a DevOps engineer who works on Windows and Linux and Unix systems, professionally. I do have a college degree from it as well. And that was just one of the points which made me go into that field and just get some more knowledge. So that's definitely that. I think knowing how to organize events better. That's kind of unique knowledge, because not much people just do bigger events, like bigger than inviting your 5 friends from your class. I think this is something which was kind of unique experience for me.
That's fair. Okay.
Also ETF2L is a completely different topic, but it's about it let me manage some kind of know how to manage some kind of organization, how to change things, to see how people react on work done by people, how to talk with them. This is something I've learned from ETF2L, for example.
Is it something you'd like put on a resume?
Maybe. Well, actually, I put on resume that I played computer games. So, and I get asked about it, and then I speak out that I'm playing Team Fortress 2. I don't feel bad about saying about it.
Do you talk about like your administrative experience, the lands, or anything?
Broadly, yes, but I'm not going into details because I don't feel it's something people care about that much. So it's just a hobby thing for me.
That's fair.
Like for example, people from my work know that I'm playing TF2, that I have a Steam Deck, that I'm doing some competitive stuff, and I take care of some websites. Because they asked me what did I do in the free time, and just ended up just casual colleague talk.
Yeah. Okay. So, has meeting those people in person kind of like changed how you've interacted with them online? Has it kind of like changed your connection to the people?
Yeah, of course. Like it gave me a completely different experience from some people. Some people just are just the same in person and as in the game. Some people told me that I behave completely differently when I'm playing games and when I'm outside of the games, because um, it's kind of negative thing because when I'm playing games and I'm like super tryharding and I don't care much about others, what they feel about, and it's kind of bad. That's why I stopped playing that much, because I just didn't want to hurt people, and I just felt bad about it after playing games that I said something harsh to people, which uh, made them feel hard. I didn't want that.
That's fair. I respect that.
Yes, but I kind of lost the point. Well, for me, some people, the biggest change for me was people who I potentially didn't like because of their persona online, but they ended up being really cool in person. Because when you're outside, let's say, of this TF2 world, you just meet these people like face to face, and you see what kind of people are they like. It changes your way of thinking about them a lot. Like, that made me basically make friends with them, because I just had some negative opinion about how do they behave in the game, like I do basically. But they ended up being a nice and cool people and enjoyable to spend time together. While I didn't spend that much time with them because of differences in opinions in the game.
And how did how did that sort of like impact you as an administrator? Like, is it different to administrate over a player that you've interacted with in person, or to interact with that person, like with that player in person while you're an admin, or are you able to kind of compartmentalize that?
I think yes, and I think it's something a lot of admins underestimate, because if you know people better, then you're easier to handle things with them. Because a lot of people treat admins like shit because they don't know about their own perspective, how they work look like, what do they have to deal with, and if you have to deal with somebody who you already know, it's always easier to talk. So I think a good admin is somebody who know people who they administer. So basically, let's say right now you're administering RGL. What do you actually administer? Like, it's probably Highlander main, right?
Yeah, Highlander.
Okay, so you probably know people in your division. What kind of people are these? Like, what do you can expect from them? And I don't mean their skill. I mean more about their kind of behavior.
Right.
So
Personality, intent.
yeah, exactly, and you know how to talk with them. And this is something which ETF taught me, how to resolve problems with people. Discuss with people. Social things were never a good thing for me, because I'm kind of person who enjoys being alone a lot. I mean, I don't need like, personally, I'm okay if my girlfriend stays at home and we don't talk that much. I just don't need that, to talk 24/7. And I'm just that kind of person. I don't need to interact with people a lot, and this kind of barrier between me and players, that I can chat with them and just talk online when I want, made me meet more people, talk with more people, just be more social. This is something I get as an advantage after those time spent on administering ETF12. But I think you get a sense of it. So if you know people better, it's easier to work with them
Right.
at some point.
Would you say there'd be like any disadvantage at all? Like, have you ever been like really uncomfortable about a person? Like, have you ever had a person, I guess, just like treat you as an admin in person instead of like as a person, or like
Well,
ask about anything?
Okay, I don't get this kind of question. So is it like, if I get it correctly, do you ask if I was it was easier to talk with somebody I met in person before and deal with some leak matters.
So what I was wondering, kind of like, has it ever been kind of like uncomfortable to like make a decision regarding that person, or like people that you've met in person, or have those people like treated you differently in person because you're a league admin? Like, have you ever had to deal with league stuff like in real life, I guess?
Not entirely. I mean, I saw some video from the event I was in, and it's related to Insomnia 69 because there was some physical fight between two players. But beside that, I don't think I had to, administer people in person, or let's say, like, put it in that way. You know, it's makes your work easier if you know people, because these
Right.
people doesn't have like a negative approach towards you because you're an admin. And they don't think about you only as an admin, but just also as a person.
Right, like it's much harder
Just
to do
like
that.
yeah, and it's just easier to talk because they just consider you as an actual human being. Feeling that if you say something harsh to them, it just kind make people hurt.
Yeah.
I think that, that kind of humanizing this kind of relationship between players and admins was a change, was a make which was changed by meeting those people. So,
Yeah, so I guess.
but it didn't make.
I was gonna say, so I guess there's just like a lot of benefit to just having lands and whatnot for a community.
Yeah,
Sorry,
because
as you're gonna say that.
it's just easier to get along with these people, and get some talk because you're just doing. You have to contact somebody as an admin because you have to deal with them related to the leak. That's it. It's nothing personal, right?
Right.
But you just get probably a little bit easier approach from these people because there's a less chance that they will treat you like shit because they know you already. And it's not only about lunch; it's just about knowing these people and
Yeah.
potentially being respectable for the work they do. But I didn't have any problem with dealing with people I met in real life. Like, for example, if I had to make some decision related to them, well, it depends how well I know them, because on ETFL there is, I think it's also on RGL, there is a rule where if you know somebody and you're familiar with these people, like your friends or your teammates, you cannot decide about them.
Conflict of interest, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a clear conflict of interest, so you cannot do anything. But so in most cases like this, I didn't have to decide about these people because I was just telling, I don't know these. I know these people too well to decide about them, and I just feel that's just fair.
Yeah. So as a hypothetical, like, what would you do if somebody who's like ETF12 banned approaches you in person? Like, how does that influence your interaction with them? Like, how do you process that?
Well, honestly, it was just a different matter. Let's say it was just a different topic to discuss with admins, like it would happen in the game, but it was in a different dimension because it was actually in real life, not in the game. Like from practical point of view, dealing with it was no different than anything else.
But like, would you still like be comfortable talking to them normally? Like, would you kind of change how you talk to them? Like, even if it wasn't about like a gameplay sort of thing, like, does it have an effect on you?
These people engage in a fight?
No, not engaging in a fight or anything. Just like if somebody's banned an ETF tool, right, and they go up to you like in person, like they talk to you, like, is that sort of like an anxiety-inducing situation for you? Do you talk to them differently than you would talk to somebody else? Like, I personally haven't really had the opportunity to like talk to any band players in person or anything like that since I've become an admin, since I haven't really been to a LAN yet, but it's something I was just a little curious about.
Well, I don't think I had such situation
Okay.
because, well, I didn't just stumble across it, but I don't think I would just happen to be different than I'm here right now, because I don't feel I need to make some kind of persona in the in the TF2 community or just pretend to be a kind of person, because I think what I'm talking about is what I think, and I don't think it would be any different if I was approached by a person, face to face or in chat. It doesn't really matter because it's just some form of communication. And
Right.
even if someone would be really muscular and the chat type of human being, I don't think I would be afraid of it, because if what I'm saying is right, then it's right, and nothing can change that.
Okay. Thank you for the response. Definitely a bit of an interesting question. Was to be comfortably answering it up, but yeah, it's fair. Definitely respect that answer. Okay. So what's the Polish TF2 community like? Like, what is it about? What makes it unique, you know? What does it mean to you?
Okay, well, it means a lot for me in general, because I just spend so much time with these people, and I just get it personal. Like, these people have been friends for me for like life. I meet some people in person from time to time, because, for example, there's a guy called Maue who lives quite close to me, because he lives in Krakow, and it's like 70 kilometers from Katowice. So sometimes I just meet him, and sometimes I work in France. Like I was about to go there like once a month for a week, and I know that Maui is a huge fan of cheese, like this kind of stinky cheese. So I was just buying stuff like that for him, and it was just really enjoyable. So, in exchange, when he was in Czech Republic, he bought some beers, came to my house, and just left them for me to just try it out, and it was just kind of enjoyable exchange. But in general, if you ask about what kind of community the Polish community is, I think the Polish community is quite united, because there's a lot of people who play only with Polish people just to speak Polish, because they find it comfortable. At some point, some people just are 15 or 16 and they're not that fluent in English, and it's just an option for them to play with some people competitive. Yeah, and united because a lot of people get along together and just hang with each other for a long time. Like me and my friends who played together in a Highlander team, or people who played with Sixes team together, they are long time friends, like for 8-10 years sometimes. Like the first guy I met in TF2 was on some pub server. He was like my pocket medic, and I was heavy. And 11 years later, we've studied on the same university. We just came on each other's birthday. We spent time on New Year party together in person, all in person, and we just shared some cool experiences together. And there are many cases like that in the Polish community. That's why I think it's so unique in comparison to some others, because I think when other countries look at it, they at some point might not have that large community to do that. Like, for example, Hungarian community is quite small, and they don't have that much opportunity, to do some such meetups or LANs themselves. Well, since we have so much people in there, we can do that. There is a similarity in the Russian community, because these people, it was kind of a unique experience for me when I heard about this, because these people are so close to each other, they call themselves by real names actually. So they don't call like people like Supra, but for example like Radek, and or in their cases like Sergey or Oleg or stuff, or names like that, right?
All right.
There are always, also bad sheeps, but it's like in every single community.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, I think it's a really cool community.
That's great to hear. Sounds like you've had a lot of positive experiences with it, yeah. Has it ever like faced anything that kind of threatens its state of beauty, or is it mostly just like people being chill and just enjoying their time together?
I think the latter option, because
That's fair.
usually people online, there's like a stereotype of people who are hostile online, but when they meet each other, they are the best friends.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I've seen many situations like this one. Where people just are harsh to each other during games, or on Discord and stuff like that. But when they meet each other and just see, actually, that's not a really reason to be that bad for each other. They just end up in this kind of war between them. So that's why this is another positive thing about these events like LANs.
Right. Okay. Do you think that's something that's kind of lacked in like more homogenous communities? I guess like, do you think it's something somewhat unique in Europe with like the sub communities compared to just like North American TF2?
Well, I don't know what's the American perspective, for packs and for community experience. I saw something, and how. Okay, so maybe I will just explain how do I see the American community,
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
like competitive community. I feel it's pretty divided in general, because
Definitely.
there are a lot of small groups of people who played each other, like 30 people group of packs, people, some kind of circlers who only play with each other, and there are just tons of such groups. Where in Poland we just have one big group and that's it. And some people may not like me, but they just still play there. Um, and that's the problem is, I think, in the American unity, that they are not that united as the country name says.
Agreed. These states are goddamn disunited.
Yeah.
And that's before you throw politics in. Alright. Alright, I think we can move on with that topic. Oh, sorry?
Can you, by the way, can you tell me if I guessed the way it looks like in America, right? Like, I don't know. Can you explain how does it look like from your perspective?
I'd say that's about right. Yeah, people are kind of mostly just focused on their own small groups, but instead of just being based off of like, culture, identity, anything like that, it's just kind of friend groups, and they're all kind of at war with each other a lot of the time. Uh, yeah, America, not North America, not in a great state culturally.
Okay, I do have a question to you, because
Sure.
you're an RGL admin. So, RGL made a park site, I think, for sixes. And what do you think about it? Like, oh, okay, I know you can just say the only positive opinion, I guess. But I just want to see, how do you view it? How is this something which can change the RGL community, like American community, so it's like more united and they will just keep up playing on one place?
Yeah, I'd say so. Not specifically because it's going to be in one place, but because it gives a way to kind of go past all the groups, like, individually, right? It's like when it's the individual groups, when you have a ton of smaller groups that kind of focus on their own groups that may not get along with each other, that have differing opinions, it's very easy for like one group to kind of have a central mass of players and to kind of dominate the pug scene. This is something you'd see in North American Highlander, where it's like one or two groups of players who have like the most players in their pug groups will just kind of announce and kill off any other pug groups if they don't like the people running the pugs in Highlander. That is not gonna name names, but that's kind of something. Like,
Okay.
you see a lot of ability for certain sub communities to kind of strong arm the rest of the community, and most of the other people don't necessarily care. They'll just see that one group has more people adding up and they'll add up to it. So I think an RGL option there would be kind of interesting. You also see a lot of like malicious intent, people ulting, people just trying to get away with a ton of rancid bannable behaviors. And a lot of the time it's just like it's really easy, speaking from personal experience, to just kind of get strong armed around. So because there's just basically nothing to unify around and there's just all this disunity, I'd say I'm pretty excited for the potential of the RGL platform, but I do not look forward to for like the people who have to administrate over that, who have to deal with that. I do think it's a step in the right direction, though, just because it gives their a little bit of a chance for things to get unified and to have like a baseline level of behavior. But then I also think a big concern is going to be like bans. You know how RGL kind of approaches it. Like it's a pug group. Well, I guess not a group, but like it's a pug site. But then also, RGL doesn't want to give it too much oversight. They don't want to give it too little oversight. They don't want to be too controlling of the player base. You know, it's like all these fine lines that have to be walked, and it's going to be tough to do that. But I do think, yes, it has the potential for some good there. I personally am not very familiar with what it's like right now, though I haven't really been playing in it.
Well, same for me because I don't play much there. But I can definitely tell you that it's that's just like you said. I think it's a step in the right direction because it makes some kind of common ground
Right.
for people from different groups, so you know they can just play together. And I think this is the biggest advantage of that all.
Right.
And you know, and you actually raised an interesting topic because you said about RGL thinking of you know kind of dividing the way they treat PAX and the league, like how for what they ban people on PAX and the league. Okay, I can give you. I can tell you about how did we handle it on the PAX,
Sure.
because we also have PAX in the Europe. It's mostly covered by TF2pickup.org project, and the way we approach it is that if you're banned on ETF2L, you cannot play PAX. Basically, it's like, and you know, each website treats this policy differently. But the sites we manage with Maui are like, if you're banned on ETF2L, you cannot play on our site. Sorry, because people don't get bans for nothing. That's the way. That's the reason. And you know, if that's, we think if banning them from PAX is a way to make them stop being an asshole, for example, then yes, then I think it's a good way to you know pull strings out. For example, we don't ban people for not uploading demos because it's kind of stupid. But you know, if you're racist and you got banned for saying the N-word on games and stuff, then we don't want such people on PAX either. So what's the point? That's why I think it's definitely good for RGL to consider that.
There's just like a very large kind of like cultural divide in the community between like what RGL should and shouldn't administrate. It's not something that I'd have the levity of speaking too much on like internal specifics on, but it's definitely just like a huge concern that RGL kind of has to walk. I don't know if it's as much of an issue in Europe or not, but it's just like out of game things the community is kind of like things that aren't directly related to like, you know, RGL platforms matches. There's a very large amount of just divided in the community, you know, between like what is seen as okay, what's not seen as okay, like what RGL reasonably should be able to act on. That being said, because it's an RGL platform, I don't see it as being that much of an issue necessarily, but it's going to be interesting how it plays out when like groups of players do get banned. If like the rest of their friends just, you know, like boycott the RGL pugs, if they continue playing the group, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, but definitely a good initiative, I'd say. So what kind of led to the current state of EU pugs? Like, what led to the development of the TF2 pugs project?
Okay, so initially it was tf2pickup.pl. So basically it was a Polish 6s website. and it was a drop-in replacement for a very old IRC bot we had. It was, back in time, it was like 2012 when we played with this bot. It was called tf2.pickup.pl. And, we had a blast because we just came up on IRC, just joined the queue, and just played together with some random sixes games. And we enjoyed it, but, the bot died and nobody, maintained it. So Mao had an idea that he could just try out himself in writing a website which could just handle the same task, but in a way easier approach, because for some people, using IRC in 2023 would be a challenge, because some people just don't want to do this kind of effort, and it's super easy if you can just type a link in the website, just click on Steam to log in, and that's it. And you can just start playing, because it's super easy right now. And at the beginning it worked. It was a huge success because for us, because we didn't have to, use these Steam groups for gathering people for mixes, because that's what we've been doing. We've been just doing group announcement on Steam groups where most of the Polish competitive players were playing, to just gather some people on Mumble and do last to spec and just get some medics and pick some players. And when this website was being done, there was already PackJump in place in the Europe. So, and there was HLPax EU working at the moment for Highlander. And with the sense how this website worked, we had a different way of thinking how could it work in our side. Because, the problem with the captain system in general is that if you don't pick, you just don't play. And it can lead to situations where you're just in the queue for a few hours. There are many games played already, but you never get picked up, and you always get fat-kidded by captains because, I don't know, captains don't like you, or you're just a newcomer and you don't know much about the game, and they just pick somebody else because somebody else is a better deal for them, because they just obviously want to get a better team to win. And with that in mind, because it's not only that, it's sometimes it's like captains can just pick their friend instead of you, even if you're playing better, because they just want to play with friend instead of you, and you can just end up not playing games at all, even if being on the side, which is kind of a bad thing because it discourages people to join. And Polish packs worked like advanced lobbies on TF2 Center, but the problem is on TF2 Center, these advanced lobbies were supposed to do some balancing, but right now this balancing doesn't work at all, so it's pretty much random teams, because the website on which it was based on doesn't work already, or just doesn't exist.
Sounds like TF2 Center.
Yeah, because I'm talking about TF2 Center right now.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in like a joking sense.
Yeah, because the TF2 Center was using TF2 player rankings for doing the balancing on advanced lobbies, and it kind of works like that. But instead of using some external APIs or some data, admins set up skills by themselves. So they decide how good are you on scout, soli, demoman, or medic. And that's how, you just click to join a certain class, and when everybody joins, the game starts, and balancing mechanisms try to pick the closest teams in skill, so they are as, balanced as possible, So the website in the backend does a set of calculations with these numbers of skills on certain classes to make the count, the sum of the count of players be exact the same on both sides, or if that's not possible, just the closest possible scenario. So that's how pickups work in general. And for us, it was a huge success because we had an opportunity to play way more and way more often. So it was just a huge win for us. And I think there was a guy called Sage from Spanish community who noticed that we have such website, and he asked me, you know what, your website is cool. Could we have it in Spain? So he made a website with different background, different logo, and it worked out because that made people from Spanish community come back to playing the game because they've seen a new opportunity to have fun, and that just slowly spread out on other countries. So we had pickups in Germany for German-speaking gamers. We had one in France. We had one in Netherlands. In Finland. There was one in Portugal. One in Russia. And you know what? These pickups were not like country based; they were language based. So it was like if you just like the French side was for people who live in France, in Luxembourg, in Switzerland, and in Belgium, because in all of these countries you speak like French is an official language in some places. So, for example, in Belgium is a southern region, and the northern region speaks Dutch.
Okay.
So we ended up on having like over 20 websites. There's even one for Siberian pickups right now. So people from living in Siberia play pickups, and they didn't want to play on Russian pickups like this main website because the latency to Moscow was big enough to, think about having their own website in Novosibirsk because it's way closer to them and they can just have better experience in it. We also had a website for ex-Yugoslavian countries.
Yeah, I just saw that. That is certainly a title.
We also have two websites for Brazilians, for Sixes and for Highlander. We had an American site, so it was TF2pickup.us. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. So yeah, I think it was a huge success, and there was a lot of accusations towards us that we didn't want to make a English website. And I was even called a racist guy because we don't want to make English people to let them play, or we are just racist towards British people because British people, they cannot have their own website. So it would be like, I don't know, tf2pickup.co.uk. But the main reason was that we just want we know this kind of website we made at the state at the time, it was not ready to handle this amount of people. And it's not about the way it's programmed, because it's quite good written, but it's about features. So it would be harder to catch outs on the website. It didn't have much options which we required to run European Highlander pickups, which we have right now. And well, it's a success. Right now it's the most active website from all websites, and we plan to make the next European website, which will be for Sixes. We also have a website for B-Ball and for Ultiduo.
So you said the American one didn't work out?
Yeah.
What happened to it?
I think it was because of bad advertising. So people who manage this website are people who are good in technology, but maybe not good in management or making good publicity. Because, for example, I know how to make some noise and make people know about these things, but I know how to do it in Europe. I mean, it's the same methodology in general, but the thing is, I don't know people in the US. and it would be kind of stupid for me to do it in the US because I'm just not around this community, so it would be kind of pointless. So if that would be managed by a people who know Americans well and do some better advertising, then maybe it's my fault. Maybe I just didn't look after it well enough to make it happen. But eventually people didn't play on this website and it just died.
That's fair. I think in some of these cases, like some of these regions might not have like that much existing plug infrastructure developed, but then in North America at least, it's just like there's like 15 million different competitors, so I could see it not turning out that well, especially with a lack of marketing.
Yeah, because you have to understand that we have I don't know, almost 20 websites, and I'm obviously not managing every single of them.
Right.
We just provide a ready service, like a working website, and we just have some administration team for each one, and they just manage it themselves. Like it's kind of independent body from us. They just come us to get some support if the website doesn't work or works in a non-intended way. So, for example, I don't speak German, at least not that much, to be fluent. And I have no view into what Germans do on their website, and they decide about things themselves. And they host the website themselves, and I'm completely fine with it because now it's their own business and they deal what's in their packs happening.
So, what sort of a staff team do you have?
Well, I don't really remember who's in the German parks. I can tell you who's in the website I manage. So, technically I manage Highlander European pickups, People European, and Ultido European pickups. I don't manage Polish pickups because there are just different people. So I just know these people. And I don't think there's any sense in calling out names, but it's like I just know these people because I just pick them up to cooperate with me. So even on this website, I don't do it super actively because I take care of many other things. So I cannot, put that much time into it. And, if you think about this entire thing in general, you have to spend so much time on, taking care if everything is okay for packs, for TF2 website, now also for the LAN. So, I don't have that much time to play games in general because I just take care of things if they work as they should.
Okay, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, especially when you have like so many of them to focus on. Yeah. Do you get much like gratitude or anything from other people about it?
Yeah, I think so, and it's
That's nice
honestly
to hear.
the biggest thing I could just get. Like, if people are grateful for my service and enjoy my work, and I'm very grateful. And it's not about donations, money, because I'm doing good. But it's just about like sense of being grateful for something. That
Right.
I'm just doing some work for others.
Knowing other people respect the time and care you're investing in, and that they might care
This is
as well.
basically the thing.
Okay.
I still think most of the job is being done by Maui because he writes the website, and he's like one man army who does every kind of development with it. What I do is just to talk with people and help them set up the website and give some responses on what do they need. So I can just take this kind of work off from Maui so he can just spend his time on development more and just focus on the thing he's doing the best. So that's how it works basically. We also have a different guy who prepare graphics for everything. So you can see these Poland balls. It's like every country, every website has a Poland ball and it's different. So and it's except the Polish one, it's based on some kind of stereotypes on historical matters. So, for example, there is a non-existing website for Netherlands. So it's with cheese and it's with eyes looking after smoking something which is being smoked in Netherlands very often. But I won't say what's exactly that because I think you know it. I think for Russian pickups we have a ushanka, like the hat which is worn by the Russian army.
Yeah.
Um,
Also a heavy hat.
yeah, exactly. I think Sweden, for Sweden we have the meatballs because it's a popular dish there, and they thought it's gonna be a cool thing to consider them. For Finland we have like sniper, like a sniper prawn ball, and it's because of
Simo Hayo?
huh?
Simo Hayo, like the sniper?
It's a no. It's about how they're being perceived after the Second World War, because Finland, like historically, is a country which defends themselves, and it's like known by their own abilities, to deal things with their own hands.
Makes
It's like
sense.
and they have that. I think Finnish people have some sort of mentality where you must deal with your own problems, and it's known by Finnish snipers, which were completely in white during the Second World War, while being invaded by Russians, and it's
The Winter War,
it's
yeah.
a notable historical thing. That's why, and they enjoy it, so I thought it's gonna be a good thing.
Yeah, it's fair. Gotta have some of that lore.
Yeah, for Germany, I think we have a German hat, like German medic hat, and some sausage because it's a national good to eat sausages. Actually, oh no, we didn't put a sausage, but it was in general an idea to do that because that's what we know Germans for. That they drink a lot of beer and just eat sausages, and there's the French website, which is down already, unfortunately. But you can what was in it.
Baguette?
Of course,
Love it.
the fancy hat and the mustache.
Les moustaches. Fair.
Yeah. I think I have an avatar somewhere of this Discord because it's like I have a Discord of every of these websites. So you can notice how does it look like. I'll just send you a screenshot on
Alright.
chat.
As you can see here, though, I also have a nice hat and les moustaches. Bonjour.
Do you see the French logo?
Let me see. Did you send? Oh yeah, in DMs. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to check earlier, but I did see the site was down. Yeah, I see the logos.
Yeah.
I like the American one too.
Yeah, it was like, for me, the biggest stereotype of Americans is this Texas type of guy with this kind of hat and shotgun.
Yeah.
Who...
Farmer Joel. Get off my lawn! Do I look like a stereotypical American?
I don't think so. Like, completely not.
Damn, yeah, I'm too underweight.
No, I don't see a shotgun under your bed, so you don't get a pass.
Yeah, you got a point. I'll need to upgrade my next cosmetic set. Maybe a festive. Or an Australian. Australian, I think. Then it'll be a real American. Okay. So, what would be the biggest difficulty you face probably like across the board with the websites? Like just occasional like lack of advertisement when you're first starting out in a region?
Which website? Which website?
Just like in general, like with the project as a whole.
So you mean the biggest problems with it, or?
Yeah, like what's the biggest issue you've had to tackle?
Well, it depends on type of problems because I deal with technical problems, I deal with social problems, like with people. So I had a situation where there was a guy who came from one of the website to complain about other people who are on the website, and the moderation doesn't do anything with it. This is some sort of thing I don't like to deal with because we kind of give these people sort of independence in how do they work with the community. If they're doing bad job because they are not fair in policing the rules, we can just step in and just talk about it. But technically it's their own website, and it's their own business what they want to do with it. And the worst thing which can happen from us to them is that they will just not give them support, and that's it, or just stop providing them updates. But it's the worst thing which could happen, and it's pretty much no punishment at all.
Fair.
From technical matters, I can explain, but I don't think it's interesting for your audience because I don't think they're into operating systems and Linux and stuff like that.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Alright.
I personally find it very interesting, but I can understand that it's just completely boring for people.
Hey, the engineer remains out there, They're
Yeah.
the ones you want to talk to.
Yeah.
Does seem to be a common thing. Engineer means in TF2, engineering and IRL. I don't know what's up with that.
It's funny that you mention it because Sigafu was always an eng main, and he ended up being a software developer. So basically an engineer.
Have you ever met Sigafu now that he's moved to Europe?
No, not really. Like we are not that close with Sigafu, to meet each other. Also, from what I guess, he lives in Netherlands because in general Netherlands is like the best way to go for Americans, or the best perceived country, because it's not that car centric like America, but people centric. So
That sounds really nice.
yeah, I think this kind of thing is the biggest shock for Americans coming to the EU. And this kind of transportation things which are in Netherlands are pretty much in every single country in the Europe, but it's the best developed country in that sense.
I always thought it was like Scandinavia or something that was meta for Americans to move to.
Why though?
I guess just like the healthcare or something. I don't know. I just heard they're nice places.
Well, that's one of the things why I wouldn't move to America, because the healthcare is like so expensive, and I cannot imagine paying that much. That I have to take a loan to get a treatment.
Would you say Scandinavia is not a particularly good place to move to? Or just
No,
not
it's
as good as Netherlands?
Honest, well, in terms of transportation, not as good as Netherlands, but in general, in terms of living, it's one of the best places in the world.
I see.
Maybe it might be hard for someone who loves very warm temperatures, like Mexican type of people, for example, because it's quite colder. So you can imagine that, for example, I had a trip with my girlfriend to Stockholm, and when we've been starting of the plane from Krakow, it was like 20 degrees, and when we arrived, it was like 4, and it was snowing. And it was like at the start of spring, but the way they have, it's always way colder there than in our countries. And some people may not accept this kind of difference. for me, I'm feeling okay with living in Poland, and I don't see myself there because I don't find these languages, interesting to learn, and I'm already, feel good where I'm here right now.
Okay. Um, I think I had one last topic I'd want to explore, and then I'll just like let you go into anything else you would want to go over, and then I think we can wrap it up. I'll be honest, this cough has been draining me a lot. I don't know if you can see it that much on the cam, but like,
Well,
I'm coughing for 20 hours.
it's 1:30 here, so let's jump to the next topic.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about like community contributors, community leaders, like just a bit of the EU lore real quick from your perspective.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So what I think about like this topic in general, there's mm, many people who did some contribution for the community, but they don't get that much of gratitude for what they've done, and I think it's good to embrace this kind of gratitude towards those people, because I think these people are just pillar of the community, and obviously they don't get what they give for the community in general.
Yeah.
I don't think it should work in a way. It's like one-to-one exchange. So you just put some work and just got the same in exchange, because it wouldn't be real. Like for example, if you let's say you're a web software developer, or website developer, and you do some work for, I don't know, TF2, for example. So you prepare a overlay for Twitch streams, so it looks kind of nice with all of these cool transitions, these titles, formatting, etc., etc. So if you look at the perspective of this kind of person, you can notice that if they would be doing this kind of work, let's say professionally, they would be earning, I don't know, like $50 an hour, right? But they do this kind of work for free, or if they get donations, this kind of donation, they don't cover up the work they do. So let's say instead of getting $50 an hour, they get like 5 or 2. And I think this is some problem that some people have no understanding of how much this work is worth. So some people, for example, come across and ask if you can make a frag movie for them for 2 TF2 keys, where it's like $4, and spending time, like if you'd be doing professionally on like montage, is just where like this amount of money you get in exchange would just cost, like give you like 20 minutes of work in exchange for in comparison for professional work, and people just have no understanding that. That's why I think these people should especially get some gratitude for what they do. And if I would have to drop some names, they're like I think always the biggest name in the community is Vithoofd, because Vithoofd did stream layouts for TFTV, for Kritzcast. He did some contributions for ETF2L, I think, in terms of the website, in terms of some types of formatting, because he's also a site caller for ETF2L. When I ask him for help, he always helps me. And when I was on an admin and I needed to have some proofreading of my post I was posting for like, I don't know, new season, or grand finals coming up, and some just text I just wrote up, I could always ask him for help, and I was always getting it like in 2 hours, or just whenever he would be able to. And I think these people like him, I don't want to be perceived as a person who licks his ass, okay? But I think people underestimate the contributions of people like him.
That's fair. Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's just like a lot that the normal average user might not even see about.
Yeah, because it's basically behind the scenes, right? So they just what they see is the results. So you just see nice logos. So you can see that, for example, when you're watching Creedcast and you watch some Highlander streams, you can see that people are wearing certain items at the moment, and this is something which couldn't be a thing if someone just put some work into making that happen. And it's not that really easy to make it because well you have to spend hours to do such things, and you have to have an actual knowledge how to do it. So like I think one of things he've made is a cheat feed for streamers.
Oh
So
yeah.
when you cast a game, you can just connect. If you have a connect to the server and Archon, you can just connect this cheat feed, and it will just show you in advance what's happening on the server. So you can just, if you're a production guy, you can always move your camera into the spot where there will be some drop, or crazy air shot, or some headshot, or just some series of backstabs, and it's not like this guy is a prodigy and he understands the game so well, so he knows where all of these cool happenings will happen. It's just a technology which provides them that kind of information, and someone had to wrote that, right?
Right.
And
Definitely.
Vithoff is a kind of guy who does technical work, but it's not only the contribution which was like needed for the community. There are many other people who does cool things like that, and it's all about management. It's about managing leaks. It's about making some content on YouTube, um, like making casts. So commenting games. This is some sort of contributions I perceive helpful for the community. Like underestimated too much more, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah. It's like honestly, like I you. It's I wouldn't really expect the leagues to just go out of their way and just like make cups or something in honor of them, but definitely just more like public awareness, knowledge of what they do, gratitude would go a long way. Like honestly, sometimes I wonder what keeps these people just doing what they're doing for so long.
Well, you can ask yourself why you are an agile admin.
I want to protect the community and make sure changes are being made in the right direction.
And this is like a motivation which most of these people have, but in a slightly different sense, because for Vithoff it's like having to get some better experience by watching games. And for example, well, I don't know. Okay, so another big contributor, maybe not in Europe, is Core, because Core is doing a lot of production for TFTV, for I think for Capping TV as well. He's also a OS Fortress head admin, and he also made a map called Cornwater. Maybe you've seen that.
I I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool rework of Badwater, and there are many other people like them, which they're kind of good in their own, let's say, field. So, for example, if you notice who's in the staff on the lands, they are usually the same people, both in America and in Europe. If you look at who manages the league, who's a league admin for a long time, who does the anti-cheat things. This is kind of people who do a lot for the community, and I think they should be gratitude for what they do, because I think the amount of time they put into it is kind of it's not respected well, honestly, because at the end of the day, you can just be called biased because of reasons. Even if you want to be as fair as much as possible, and you cannot do much about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who will just outright mock you for it, like things like forum moderators. the people who like administrate over discords but don't formally like administrate for the league. It's just like there's so many positions that do just like tireless, thankless work that just get met by straight mockery from the player base. And it's like, yeah, of course, some of those staff members make mistakes, but they're just humans too, and they care about the game, and that's something you should respect.
Yeah, and the problem is that a lot of people just don't have this kind of understanding because they don't see how does it look like from behind the scenes, like from other perspective, and they don't want to put themselves into the position of that kind of admin because sometimes just people think that their own right is the only right thing, like in minds of people what should be done.
Yeah, and then like it'll usually again just kind of similar with like the competitive to casual comparison. It's like you'll see like a few bad actors, who do at some point become staff members, and then it's just like people will take a look at that and apply that to every staff member. All of them are corrupt, all of them are bad. Just kind of sucks. But okay. Unless you had anything else you'd want to go into, I think that's a pretty good stopping point.
Yeah, I would just add a shout out for the TF2 Polska community and ETF2L.
Yeah. Anybody else you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, of course, I would shout out the Gate Discord.
Oh yes, gotta represent.
Yeah.
Can I get a Kevin insult? say the word.
No, I'm not gonna say that. Anything. Sorry.
Alright. Whatever. It'll stay an inside joke. Okay. I think we'll go and stop the recording then, yeah?